Hey, I'm Nicole, and this is World on Fire, where I read climate news so you don't have to. And this week, we've got a good old-fashioned news roundup. Some of it's kind of old news because I'm in the middle of moving apartments, and I've also been doing some other stuff, which I'm going to tell you about in the next video. But if you're getting your climate information from me anyway, you don't know the difference. It's a perfect business model. Let's start with some good news. A group of older Swiss women in their 70s have won the first ever climate case victory in the European Court of Human Rights. Hell yeah, ladies, way to go. You are feisty, you are fabulous, and you are litigious. Powerful, cool, older women like this should inspire their own Golden Girls reboot. Although I don't know that they'd want to be called sluts.
A slut and a moron.
Can you believe that backstabbing slut? Sluts just heal quicker.
She's not a slut.
Thank you, Doris.
She is the slut.
The case argued that their government wasn't doing enough to avoid climate disasters such as heat waves, which pose a specific health risk to them considering their age. Not to mention, if it gets too hot, their Werther's Originals will melt. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's great for Switzerland and all, but how does it help me? Well, apparently the ruling is binding and can trickle down to influence the law in 46 countries in Europe, including the UK. Okay, I know that historically things that are supposed to trickle down haven't really, but in the words of my favorite philosopher,
but it might work for us.
And this Swiss victory came just at the right time. Last month, a new study showed that Europe is not prepared for the growing climate extremes it faces, according to findings from its first risk assessment. First risk assessment? Seems a little late to start. Do you also want to get your first pap smear when you're 55? Are you going to wait for your first colonoscopy until you're on your deathbed? Yeah, oui. I mean, what have you been doing all this time, Europe? Eating baguettes and not going to the dentist? The report emphasized the lack of social preparedness in Europe to deal with outcomes like drought, wildfires, and floods. And it also recommends a combination of measures that will help mitigate future emissions as well as help the continent adapt to a warming world. Water reductions? Oh boy, the French are gonna smell even worse now. Although maybe Venice will finally stop using coal rolling gondolas. Experts hope that the report will be a huge wake-up call for the continent, which is a tall order given how seriously they take their siestas.
But I'm tired.
Back in America, the Biden administration is betting on climate-friendly farming, but experts aren't so sure it's gonna work. So I guess it's not climate-friendly so much as climate-frenemy or climate work acquaintance. See, the government is incentivizing practices that would theoretically store more carbon in plants and in the soil, like planting cover crops and reducing farmland tilling. But half of the scientists interviewed by Reuters believed that these practices wouldn't really store that much carbon at all. And the other, more optimistic half only said that the practice can store various amounts of soil carbon, but circumstances will dictate how much and for how long. Oh, is there any chance that it's all of it and forever? So that's like not great, but it's not all bad news. All the experts agreed that no-till practices and planting cover crops are a good idea. They make the soil healthier and they increase biodiversity. But as one scientist put it, will it help with climate adaptation? Absolutely. Should it serve as an offset for more permanent and long-lived pollutants? Absolutely not. So it's not gonna fix things, but it will help us cope while everything gets worse around us. Kind of like alcohol. And as long as we're talking about farming and soil health, I recently reread The Grapes of Wrath, and I'm bringing it up to brag that I recently reread The Grapes of Wrath. That's right, I'm better than you. In the world of climate activism, climate protestors disrupted a Broadway play starring Jeremy Strong. And this would be the perfect time for a Succession reference, but unfortunately I still haven't watched Succession. And in fact, the only thing that I've seen Jeremy Strong in is the Guy Ritchie movie, The Gentleman, because I have a brain disorder where I have to watch every movie that Guy Ritchie makes. The doctors say it's not treatable. So anyway, with that context, let's run this headline again. Climate protesters disrupted a Broadway play starring Jeremy Strong.
It's a tad dramatic, isn't it?
Apparently, the protest in front of a sold-out crowd in front of the 828-seat Circle in the Square Theater confused some attendees who initially thought it was part of the play. See, this is why we need humanities education, okay? People need to know the difference between a protest and immersive theater. I made that mistake at Sleep No More. Between the terrible job market and the climate crisis, things aren't going like great for young people right now, but there is some good news on both fronts. Because President Biden is seeking $8 billion to expand the American Climate Corps, which would train young workers to prevent wildfires, defend communities from floods, install solar systems, and more. But if young people are preventing wildfires, who's gonna set micro trends online? I need to know what kind of fucked up little outfits we're wearing now. This bullshit? Sure, fine. Nothing matters anymore. And we really need that climate core to make some essential upgrades because old power lines combined with drought and heat from climate change mean a growing risk of utilities starting fires. Yeah, I don't know why we expected America to maintain its electrical grid when most of us can't even maintain a substack for 3 posts. Hell, if the TV industry weren't fully collapsing, I would have abandoned this channel after like an episode and a half. And we gotta prevent down power lines from starting wildfires because municipalities can't deal with that on their own. They are absolutely swamped with moms claiming that a picture book made their kid gay. According to experts, some basic equipment upgrades could help utilities predict and prevent wildfires. The utilities have the tools. This is not a mystery.
We can rebuild
The grid.
We have the technology.
Unfortunately, our grid is going to continue to suck for all the same reasons that everything sucks now. A lot of utilities probably aren't spending as much internal staff time and potentially as much money on those parts of the business that don't earn Wall Street a return but are really important for safety. Wow, so you're willfully ignoring a huge problem and instead choosing what's going to make you the most money. I mean, who do you think you are, the AMPTP? This is how you know that businesses aren't people. Businesses only care about money, whereas people generally care about other people. There's a reason that MLK's famous speech wasn't, "I have a dream of optimizing productivity and eliminating redundancy on behalf of Bain Capital and their shareholders." And if you care about people and the climate, I put some resources in the show notes for how you can get involved. And if you want me to keep you updated on climate news, please click like and subscribe below. And if you're a big-time Hollywood producer, don't worry about what I said about the whole industry collapsing. I have a ton of stuff that I can pitch you. You can call me anytime. Please call me.
She's the grand poobah of slutdom.